T-10 as far as getting this to the president's desk is concerned. Can we glean any details from the negotiations that are going here between the Senate and the House, and whether or not and at what point we'll actually hear something official from them?
Some details, not a lot. One of the things I've heard from one source familiar with the negotiations is that they're working toward a $750,000 cap for the mortgage interest deduction. That's down from $1 million. It's a compromise between the two bills. The Senate bill did not affect the $1 million, and the House bill cut it to $500,000. Keep in mind, this is only for new homes, not existing ones that are already grandfathered in. Other things they're working through are a pass-through deduction. The House and the Senate worked with different approaches there. They're trying for something simple like the Senate deduction, but with fewer limitations. And beyond that, they're working on a state and local tax compromise to appease some members from, most notably, the California House Republican delegation, who want it to include income taxes as well. There are some members who are upset about the AMT being restored to too much of a degree in the Senate bill. So not a lot of details. As you mentioned, they're keeping this very, very closely guarded.
Sahil, of course, it makes sense that they want to keep the details as quiet as possible to avoid any political fallout. But bottom line, is there any reason to think it's not going smoothly, or do things seem to still have the momentum?
They seem to have the momentum, Joe. It's hard to imagine this falling apart right now. It would take a total and utter catastrophe for that to happen, I think. They're at the 1-yard line with the House and the Senate having passed their bills. I can't think of a precedent where this sort of thing gets derailed in conference committee, and there's an eagerness and really a desperation among members, Republican members in both the House and the Senate, to get this done. So it's hard to imagine a scenario where there's one sticking point or the other that collapses this whole effort.
They may be at the 1-yard line, but they still have some major points to resolve. I mean, I see on that list corporate tax rate front and center. Is it going to be 20%? Is it going to be 22%? Where's the red line on this?
Yeah, we don't know the answer to that, Scarlett, but the issue there is that nobody's going to want to kill the bill if there's 1 extra percentage point or 2 extra percentage points on the corporate tax rate. They're working through that. I think they're turning the dials, as they like to call it, with the Joint Committee on Taxation to figure out how much money they need and whether they can keep it under the $1.5 trillion. I would file that under issues that are contentious right now, but issues that wouldn't collapse this effort.
The president's set to make a closing argument speech on taxes tomorrow, Sahil. What can he personally achieve at this stage, do you think, to bring the two sides together?
Not much other than a pep talk. I mean, that's pretty much been the president's role throughout this, is to be a cheerleader for this effort, to make the case, to try to get the Republican base as energized about this, which, frankly, they have not been. The main impetus for this bill is coming from the business community, corporate America in particular, which is very excited about getting this tax cut from 35 to 20%, could be 22%. But, the president's, I think, going to continue playing the same role, basically as trying to buck up his members, saying get this done as soon as possible, and it'll be wonderful.